Time for another news video, and we have not some, we got a variety of updates on talent and a number of other things, so let's just get right to it. I just want to point out that I don't know a lot about the situation, but what I do know about the situation is that Ted DiBiase Jr., the former WWE superstar, is set to face multiple years in prison after a welfare scandal as a result of the welfare scandal in his home state of Missouri. I honestly don't really know a lot about the situation. I don't really want to comment on the situation because of the seriousness of the situation. But I mean, what I will say is it's a damn shame that something like that would happen, and that people really need to check themselves if they're in that situation where they have that sort of responsibility to people who really need, the money and, the help, and you still are thinking about yourself. It's a shitty situation. But we jump over to Bron Breakker and NXT, as Bron Breakker is said. Let me rephrase that. According to Dave Meltzer, Bron Breakker was set to make his WWE return or WWE main roster debut last year after WrestleMania, but the plans were scrapped in favor of Braun staying in NXT. If you remember right after WrestleMania last year, Braun made his main roster debut in a match with Dolph Ziggler on Raw for the NXT Championship, which Bron Breakker actually won. And that's when Braun regained his NXT World Championship, and then would progress to becoming NXT champion for the better part of the next year. Now Braun just turned heel recently after losing the title to Carmelo Hayes. And the only question now is what does the future hold for Bron Breakker? I think some people may think that Braun may come up to the main roster, especially considering the fact that the draft is right around the corner, and that he may be one of the people that are called up through the draft or for the draft. I'm not going to say it's not possible that Braun will come up for the draft. I do think it is possible that Braun could make his debut on the main roster through the draft, but I think with the fact that Braun just turned heel, him coming up for the draft or coming up and debuting through the draft would not exactly be a correct first step or a correct step. It would not exactly be a step that the company should take, considering the fact that you're talking about somebody who just turned heel and are trying to have him develop a heel character on the main roster. On NXT. So why would you turn him heel on NXT to bring him up to the main roster? Why wouldn't you turn him heel on the main roster after bringing him up from NXT? You know what I mean? So that brings up the question: would it be smart to bring him up, or would it be better to keep him down, let him develop a heel character on NXT, and then bring him up? I think it would be smarter to let him develop on NXT, then bring him up. But that's just my opinion. You know what I mean? That's just my opinion. Speaking of the WWE draft, the draft is set to take place 2 weeks from today. 2 weeks from yesterday, I apologize. 2 weeks from yesterday. And it will include every member of the WWE roster. Nobody will be exempt from the draft. I would say probably outside of Universal Champion Roman Reigns and the Undisputed Tag Team Champions, because if you say that the Undisputed Tag Team Champions are in fact the Undisputed Tag Team Champions, then why wouldn't they be exempt from the draft? Because they don't need to be drafted between the brands if they're the champions for the entire WWE. So that's just my opinion. But there are in fact rumors of a number of talent making their debuts on the main roster through the draft, namely Cameron Grimes. Let's see if I can remember. Cameron Grimes, Zoe Stark, Cameron Grimes, Zoe Stark, Cameron Grimes, Zoe Stark, Cameron Grimes, Zoe Stark, Cameron Grimes, Zoe Stark. Let's jump back to this in a minute. We'll jump back to this in a minute. And we will jump instead to an update on Backlash, as the Backlash pay-per-view, the pay-per-view card for Backlash is coming together with more matches announced for the event. Seth Rollins versus Omos, which is an incredibly random match, but hey, what are you going to do? Rhea Ripley versus Zelina Vega for the SmackDown Women's Championship, which is because I believe Zelina Vega is the only Puerto Rican-born wrestler in WWE, or Puerto Rican-born women's wrestler, I should say, in WWE, which would put her in the position of being a person that should be challenging for the world title in Puerto Rico. And also, it is a triple threat match for the for the United States Championship, as Austin Theory is set to defend the United States Championship against Bobby Lashley and Bronson Reed. I think if there was ever a time for for Austin Theory to lose the title, it would be in a triple threat match with Bobby and Bronson Reed. I'm not saying he will, but I'm just saying he might. You know, I'm not saying he will, I'm just saying he might. And, you know, also I just want to put it out there that May 6th, is the date for Backlash. That's what it is. And also the SmackDown beforehand will be when will be set in Puerto Rico as well. I also remembered a few more names, and that is Cameron Grimes, Zoe Stark, Ilya Dragunov, and I don't remember off the top of my head, I will admit. I don't remember off the top of my head, but the one thing I would point out is that names like Grayson Waller, JD McDonough, you know, JD McDonough, even Apollo Crews. You know, even Apollo Crews was not rumored to be called up. You know, there's a lot of names that may have surprised you as far as names that are not rumored to be getting called up, like the Creed brothers or, you know, Noam Dar or, you know, Tony D'Angelo, guys who have done a lot on NXT. But also, there's talk, I believe it was Dave Meltzer who mentioned that there's a little bit of, you know, like skepticism, I guess, with the amount of people that are on the IR. As Roddy's, you know, I believe there's about 15 people on the IR between NXT and the main roster, with Nikita Lyons, Yuli C. Leon, Amari Miller, Blair Davenport, Nikita Lyons, Roderick Strong, and then Randy Orton, Biggie. But I mean, Bray Wyatt's technically on the IR because he's out with an undisclosed injury. AJ Styles, Bobby Roode, R-Truth, Tommaso Ciampa. I think WWE would like to get their roster back to full health at some point. You know, Kofi's still injured. Alexa Bliss is out. I mean, the list goes on and on and on and on and on of people that are injured and that WWE would like to see back at some point. But, I mean, I guess the best way to put it is, would I be surprised to see Cameron Grimes get the move up to the main roster? Absolutely not. I think Cameron Grimes, among the people that were mentioned, Cameron Grimes is somebody that I'm surprised that has not been called up sooner. But either way, though, that is it for the news. There is more to come in the next video, specifically having to do with a surprising story regarding All In from AEW. With that being said, I will see you in the next one.